Dr. Alina Novik pressed herself against the cool stone of the ancient temple, her heart thundering in her chest. The humid air of planet Kepler 186F clung to her skin like a second layer of clothing, but she barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on the scene unfolding in the clearing below, where something straight out of her worst nightmares was taking place. The Vraxians, a species of towering humanoids with iridescent scales and multiple sets of eyes, moved in perfect synchronization around a central altar. Their massive forms cast long shadows in the light of 3 moons, their ceremonial armor clicking with each deliberate step. Alina had spent months studying their civilization from afar, documenting their hunting patterns and social structures, but this was different. This was wrong. In the center of their ritual circle lay a being unlike anything Alina had ever encountered in her 15 years of xenoanthropology. The creature appeared female, her body composed of living crystal that pulsed with internal light. Her translucent skin refracted the moonlight, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the temple walls. She was beautiful, ethereal, and clearly terrified. Alina's universal translator picked up fragments of the Vraxians' guttural chanting. "Sacred feast, power eternal, consume the star child." The words made her blood run cold. This wasn't just a ritual sacrifice, it was cannibalism with a purpose. The crystalline being's eyes snapped open, revealing swirling galaxies within their depths. She turned her head, and for a heart-stopping moment her gaze met Alina's. A voice, clear as crystal but trembling with fear, echoed inside Alina's mind. "Please help me." Alina's fingers tightened around her research tablet. Everything she'd learned about non-interference protocols and maintaining objective distance crumbled in the face of that desperate plea. She couldn't stand by and watch this happen, not when she had the power to act. Moving silently, she activated her emergency beacon. The signal would reach the nearest human outpost in minutes, but help would take hours to arrive. The Vraxians were already raising their ceremonial blades, their chanting reaching a fever pitch. Alina had to make a choice. Her gaze fell on the ancient temple's architecture, noting the elaborate system of channels and reservoirs the Vraxians had built to collect rainwater. An idea formed, reckless, probably suicidal, but possible. She pulled out her plasma torch, normally used for cutting through dense jungle growth. The weapon felt wrong in her hands, but she pushed aside her discomfort. With careful aim, she fired at the nearest water reservoir. The effect was instantaneous. Thousands of gallons of collected rainwater crashed down into the ceremonial area. The Vraxians roared in surprise and anger as their ritual was disrupted, their massive forms stumbling in the sudden flood. Alina didn't waste a second. She sprinted down the temple steps, nearly slipping on the wet stone. The crystalline being was trying to rise from the altar, her movements weak and uncoordinated. Up close, Alina could see the intricate patterns flowing beneath her transparent skin, like living constellations. "I've got you," Alina whispered, helping her to her feet. "Can you run?" The being nodded, her form shimmering with effort. "My name is Lyra," she projected into Alina's mind. "They've been hunting me across the stars." A furious roar cut through the chaos. The Vraxian high priest had spotted them, his multiple eyes blazing with rage. He raised his ceremonial staff, and energy crackled around its tip. "Run!" Alina grabbed Lyra's hand, surprised to find it warm and solid despite its crystalline appearance. They fled into the dense jungle surrounding the temple, the angry howls of the Vraxians echoing behind them. Alina's mind raced as they crashed through the underbrush. She had just violated every protocol in the xenoanthropologist's handbook. She had interfered with a sacred ritual, attacked a native species, and was now fleeing with what might be one of the most important discoveries in human history. "They'll never stop hunting us," Lyra projected, her mental voice growing stronger with each step. "My kind, we carry the power they crave. They believe consuming us will grant them our abilities." "What abilities?" Alina panted, ducking under a low-hanging branch. In response, Lyra's body flared with brilliant light. The air around them shimmered, and for a moment, Alina felt weightless. Then reality seemed to shift, and they were suddenly several hundred meters ahead on the trail. "Short-range teleportation," Lyra explained, her form dimming. Among other things, but it drains me especially now. Elena's scientific mind was buzzing with questions, but the sound of pursuit was growing closer. They needed help, and there was only one person on this planet she could trust. She pulled out her personal communicator, praying it would connect. Marcus, it's Elena. Remember how you said you owed me a favor after that incident with the shape-shifting fungus? I'm calling it in. Bring your ship. And Marcus, bring weapons. We're going to need them. As they ran deeper into the jungle, Elena realized her life's work had just changed forever. She had wanted to study alien civilizations, to understand them. Instead, she had just become part of a story that would reshape humanity's understanding of the universe, assuming they lived long enough to tell it. The roar of Marcus Drake's cargo ship tore through the night sky of Kepler 186f, its battered hull reflecting the light of 3 moons. Elena watched from their hiding place inside a massive hollow tree, her arm protectively around Lyra's crystalline form. The alien's inner light had dimmed significantly, pulsing weakly like a fading star. Your friend, Lyra's mental voice whispered in Elena's mind, can he be trusted with what I am? Elena studied the crystalline being's face, seeing galaxies swirl in those otherworldly eyes. Marcus is complicated, but he's never betrayed me. Right now, he's our only chance of getting off this planet alive. The ship touched down in a small clearing, its landing gear crushing the bioluminescent vegetation beneath. The loading ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss, revealing Marcus's tall figure. He carried a pulse rifle with practiced ease, his dark eyes scanning the perimeter. New scars marked his face since Elena had last seen him. Doc, he called softly, whatever mess you're in, we've got about 5 minutes before it catches up. I picked up some very angry signals on my approach. Elena helped Lyra to her feet. The moment Marcus saw the crystalline being, his grip tightened on his rifle, but to his credit, he didn't raise it. Well, he muttered, that's new. A distant howl echoed through the jungle. The Vraxians were closing in. Marcus cursed and motioned them aboard. Questions later, survival now. As they entered the ship, Lyra stumbled. Her crystalline surface had grown clouded, her internal light flickering erratically. Elena caught her before she fell. She needs help, she told Marcus. The Vraxians did something to her during the ritual. Medical bay's basic, but it's yours, Marcus replied, sealing the ship's ramp. Just make it quick. Those tribal fellows aren't going to. An energy bolt struck the ship's hull, making the whole vessel shudder. Through the viewport, Elena saw the first Vraxians emerge from the jungle, their massive, scaled forms illuminated by the moonlight. The high priest raised his ceremonial staff, energy crackling around its crystalline tip. Hold on, Marcus shouted, throwing himself into the pilot's seat. The ship's engines roared to life, and they lifted off just as another energy bolt sizzled past. Doc, what in the 7 hells did you steal from them? Not what, Lyra projected weakly, her mental voice reaching them both. Who? They hunt my kind. Consume us for our power, they believe. Devouring us will let them transcend. Marcus's hands tightened on the controls as he executed a series of evasive maneuvers. Great. Cannibalistic aliens with a god complex, just another Tuesday. They broke through the atmosphere, but their problems were far from over. A massive shape waited in orbit, a Vraxian ceremonial vessel, its hull studded with glowing crystal shards that pulsed with familiar light. Those crystals, Elena realized, horror dawning. There. My fallen kin, Lyra confirmed, her form trembling. Harvested, corrupted, used to power their technology. Marcus swore as the ceremonial ship opened fire. Doc, your new friend wouldn't happen to have any suggestions, because that thing outguns us about 20-1. Lyra pushed herself upright, her crystalline surface beginning to clear. I can help, but it will require trust and contact, a melding of minds like the one I share with Elena, but deeper. I can interface with your ship's systems, guide us through spaces they cannot follow. A mind meld with my ship, Marcus glanced back, his expression skeptical. Another shot from the Vraxian vessel rocked them violently. You know what, sure, not like this day can get any weirder. Lyra placed her crystalline hands on the ship's console. Immediately, Alina felt the familiar touch of the alien's consciousness, but this time it was different, stronger. She gasped as her awareness expanded, connecting not just to Lyra but to Marcus and the ship itself. She could feel the quantum strings that bound reality together, see pathways through space that her human mind could barely comprehend. Through their shared consciousness, Lyra's knowledge flowed freely. Alina saw glimpses of her people's history, the Luminarii, beings of living crystal who had evolved beyond conventional matter. She felt their joy, their wisdom, and their deep sorrow as the Vraxians began their relentless hunt. Marcus's military training added tactical precision to Lyra's vast knowledge. Together, they guided the ship through impossible maneuvers, dancing between dimensions that shouldn't exist. The Vraxian vessel fired again and again, but their shots passed through empty space as Lyra wove them through the quantum fabric of reality. When the connection finally faded, they were light years from Kepler 186f. Alina slumped in her seat, her mind reeling from the experience. Marcus exhaled shakily, while Lyra's glow dimmed to a soft pulse. That, Marcus said after a long moment, was either the most amazing or terrifying thing I've ever experienced, possibly both. They will still hunt us, Lyra projected, her mental voice weary but determined. But now we have a chance, and perhaps it's time for my people to stop running. Alina took Lyra's crystalline hand, feeling echoes of their shared consciousness. We'll help you, she promised, whatever it takes. Marcus nodded, his usual cynicism replaced by something like wonder. Well, Doc, looks like your research grant just turned into something bigger. Question is, where do we go from here? As their ship drifted through unfamiliar stars, Alina realized they had become part of something far larger than themselves. The Vraxians' pursuit of power had lasted centuries, but perhaps it would end here, with this unlikely alliance between a human scientist, a jaded pilot, and a being of living crystal. The quantum wake of their dimensional jump had left Marcus's ship drifting in an unfamiliar sector of space. Alina sat in the ship's small med bay, running scans on Lyra's crystalline form. The being's internal light pulsed steadily now, but Alina could sense her exhaustion through their lingering mental connection. Your molecular structure is unlike anything I've ever studied, Alina murmured, watching patterns shift beneath Lyra's transparent skin. It's as if you exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. My people evolved beyond conventional matter long ago, Lyra projected, her mental voice tired but warm. We became living processors of reality itself, but this gift, she paused, her form dimming slightly. It made us targets. Marcus entered the med bay, his boots heavy on the metal floor. Hate to break up the science lesson, but we've got company. He tossed a data pad onto the examination table. 3 Vraxian vessels just dropped out of hyperspace. They're scanning the sector. Alina's heart rate spiked. How we jumped through quantum space? They're using crystals harvested from my fallen kin, Lyra projected, her form flickering with what Alina now recognized as anger. Each shard retains an echo of our quantum signature. They're tracking us through the deaths of my people. Marcus ran a hand over his scarred face. That's properly disturbing, but it gives me an idea. He pulled up a star chart on the data pad. There's an old quantum resonance field in this sector left over from the Centauri Wars, if we can reach it. The crystalline signatures would be masked, Alina finished, catching on. But that field is notorious for destroying ships, the quantum fluctuations. Would feel like home to me, Lyra interjected, rising from the examination table. Her form seemed to stretch and ripple, adjusting to the ship's artificial gravity. I could guide us through safely. Marcus's expression hardened. After what happened last jump, you're barely standing. I am stronger than I appear, Lyra projected, a hint of steel in her mental voice. And I will not allow more of my people to die for the Vraxians' twisted ambitions. Alina watched the interplay between them, nodding how Marcus's usual skepticism warred with grudging respect. The shared consciousness during their escape had changed something between all of them, created bonds that defied easy explanation. There's something else you should know, Lyra continued. My people, We're not just running, we're protecting something, a secret that could reshape the balance of power in this galaxy. Before she could elaborate, the ship's proximity alarms blared. A Vraxian energy bolt streaked past their viewport, bathing the med bay in purple light. "Talk later, run now," Marcus shouted, already sprinting for the cockpit. Elena helped Lyra through the ship's corridors as Marcus threw them into evasive maneuvers. Through the viewport, she could see the quantum resonance field ahead, a shimmering curtain of reality-warped space that made her eyes hurt to look at directly. "They're launching boarding pods," Marcus called out. "Doc, get to the engine room. We'll need full power for this." Elena hesitated, looking at Lyra, the crystalline being nodded. "Go, I will help guide us through." In the engine room, Elena's fingers flew over the controls, redirecting power from non-essential systems. The ship groaned as another energy bolt struck their shields. Through their mental link, she could feel Lyra's consciousness expanding, reaching out to touch the quantum field ahead. A violent impact rocked the ship. "We've got boarders," Marcus's voice crackled over the intercom. "Aft airlock's been breached." Elena grabbed a plasma torch from the tool rack, not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. She could hear heavy footsteps approaching the engine room, accompanied by the click of Vraxian armor. The door burst open. 2 Vraxian warriors filled the frame, their multiple eyes glowing with hunger as they spotted her. Their ceremonial armor now bore technological augmentations, crystal shards pulsing with stolen power. "The human protects the Star Child," one growled in heavily accented standard. "Surrender her and your death will be quick." Elena raised her plasma torch. "You don't understand what you're doing. The power you're stealing, it's not meant for you." The Vraxians advanced, raising their crystal-powered weapons. "We understand perfectly. We will ascend. We will become as gods." The ship lurched as Marcus executed another evasive maneuver. Elena used the momentum, diving between the Vraxians and rolling past them into the corridor. She slammed her hand on the emergency bulkhead controls, sealing them in the engine room. "Marcus," she shouted into her communicator, "engine room is sealed with 2 very angry Vraxians inside. Please tell me we're close to that quantum field." "Almost there," he grunted. "But we've got more problems. Their main ship is charging some kind of crystal matrix weapon, if that hits us." "It won't," Lyra's mental voice echoed through both their minds. Her consciousness enveloped the ship once more, but this time Elena could feel something different in the connection. Not just power, but purpose, history, the weight of centuries of running and fighting and losing. They hit the quantum field at full speed. Reality fractured around them, the ship's hull creaking as multiple dimensions tried to occupy the same space. Through their shared consciousness, Elena felt Lyra guiding them through impossible geometries, using the quantum resonance to mask their trajectory. The Vraxian vessels tried to follow, but without Lyra's guidance, they were torn apart by the quantum fluctuations. Elena caught a glimpse of their ship splitting across multiple realities before the connection began to fade. When normal space reasserted itself, they were alone. The Vraxians were gone, their ship scattered across quantum space. In the engine room, the sealed bulkhead contained only empty armor. The Vraxian boarders had been quantum shifted with their fleet. But victory had come at a cost. Lyra's form was barely visible, her light reduced to a faint flicker. She collapsed into Elena's arms, her crystalline surface cool to the touch. "Worth it," she projected weakly. "But now you must help me find the others, the last colony of my people, because what I protect, what we all protect, it's not just power, it's truth, about the origin of all sentient life in this galaxy, and if the Vraxians ever learned it." She didn't need to finish the thought. Elena and Marcus exchanged looks, knowing their adventure had just become something far more significant than a simple rescue. "Rest," Elena told her, helping her to a recovery pod. "We'll find your people, I promise." As Lyra drifted into healing stasis, Elena wondered what other secrets the crystalline being held, and what price they would all pay to protect them. Marcus's ship limped through the starlit void, its systems still recovering from the quantum field traverse. In the makeshift med bay, Alina watched Lyra's crystalline form slowly regain its luminescence within the recovery pod. The being's internal light had strengthened from a flicker to a steady pulse, but she remained in deep healing stasis. "The navigation system is picking up something strange," Marcus called from the cockpit. "Some kind of quantum echo, similar to Lyra's signature, but older, much older." Alina rushed to join him, her eyes widening at the sensor readings. The quantum signature was indeed similar to Lyra's, but it resonated at frequencies she'd never seen before. It seemed to emanate from a small planetoid drifting at the edge of an unnamed star system. Could it be her colony? Alina wondered aloud, studying the readouts. "Or a trap," Marcus countered, his fingers hovering over the weapon controls. "The Vraxians could have salvaged enough crystal tech to fake a signature like this." A familiar presence touched their minds, Lyra awakening. Her mental voice was stronger now, carrying an undercurrent of recognition and fear. "Not a trap," she projected, "but not safe either. That signature. It's from the first temple, where my people learned the truth about our origin, about all origins." Alina helped Lyra to the cockpit, supporting her still-weakened form. The crystalline being's surface rippled at the sight of the planetoid, patterns of light racing beneath her transparent skin. "I never thought I'd see it again," Lyra continued. "The Vraxians destroyed every other temple they found, trying to access its knowledge. This one was thought lost eons ago. And now it's just waiting here." Marcus's skepticism was clear in his voice. "Nothing in quantum space is ever truly lost," Lyra explained. "It merely exists in probability until observed. The temple has been shifting through dimensional frequencies, only becoming solid reality when one of my kind is near enough to perceive it." Alina's scientific mind raced with implications. "That's incredible. A quantum architecture that only exists when properly observed. It's like Schrödinger's temple." "Fascinating," Marcus deadpanned, "but we've got company." He gestured to the long-range sensors, where multiple ships were emerging from hyperspace. "Looks like our Vraxian friends managed to salvage enough of their fleet to track us." Lyra's form pulsed with sudden urgency. "We must reach the temple first, the knowledge it contains. It could end this hunt forever, show them the truth they refuse to see." "What truth?" Alina asked, but Lyra was already moving, placing her crystalline hands on the ship's console. The familiar sensation of shared consciousness flooded their minds, but this time it felt different. Deeper. Alina could sense not just Lyra's thoughts, but echoes of ancient memories. She saw fragments of a time when the galaxy was young, when the first sparks of consciousness arose in the quantum foam of space itself. Through their mental link, Lyra guided the ship toward the planetoid. The temple's quantum signature grew stronger, reality solidifying around it as they approached. Its architecture was impossible, crystalline spires that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, halls that curved through probability space. They landed on a platform that seemed to phase in and out of existence, the temple's quantum nature responding to Lyra's presence. But the Vraxian ships were closing fast, their weapons charged with stolen crystal energy. "We need to get inside," Lyra projected urgently. "The temple's quantum field will make it harder for them to track us." Marcus grabbed his pulse rifle and a bag of explosives. Nothing like a little temple desecration to start the day. They rushed from the ship, Alina supporting Lyra while Marcus covered their rear. The temple's entrance responded to Lyra's approach, probability waves collapsing into solid crystal steps. Behind them, the first Vraxian energy bolt struck the platform, sending quantum ripples through reality itself. Inside, the temple was a maze of crystalline corridors that seemed to shift and change with each step. Lyra guided them through, her weakened state making their progress slower than Alina would have liked. Through their mental connection, she could feel the being's determination warring with exhaustion. "The central chamber," Lyra projected. "That's where the truth is stored, where the first of my kind learned." A massive explosion rocked the temple. The Vraxians had landed, their crystal-enhanced weapons allowing them to force their way through the quantum architecture. The sound of their heavy footsteps echoed through probability space. Keep going, Marcus urged, setting up defensive positions with his explosives. I'll slow them down. Elena wanted to argue, but another explosion cut her off. They could hear the Vraxians' guttural chanting growing closer, no longer just a ritual, but a war cry. The chamber, Lyra insisted. We must reach. Her voice trailed off as they entered a vast space that seemed to exist in all dimensions at once. In its center floated a crystal unlike any Elena had seen, a perfect geometric shape that hurt her eyes to look at directly. The origin shard, Lyra whispered, her mental voice filled with awe. The first quantum consciousness, the template from which all sentient life arose. Before Elena could process this revelation, the chamber's entrance exploded. Vraxian warriors poured in, their armor now covered in pools in crystal shards. Their leader, larger than the others, stepped forward with a cruel smile. At last, he growled in Standard, the source of their power, the key to godhood itself. Lyra straightened, her form blazing with renewed energy. No, she projected, her mental voice now reaching everyone in the chamber. The key to understanding. She raised her hands, and the origin shard began to pulse in response. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as ancient knowledge awakened, ready to reveal a truth that would change everything, or destroy everyone who sought to claim its power. The final confrontation was about to begin, and Elena realized that the fate of not just Lyra's people, but perhaps all sentient life in the galaxy, hung in the balance. The origin shard pulsed with ancient power, its perfect geometric form casting impossible shadows through multiple dimensions. Elena stood beside Lyra, watching as the crystalline being's light synchronized with the artifact's rhythm. The Vraxian warriors filled the chamber entrance, their crystal-enhanced armor humming with stolen energy. Your quest for power ends here, Lyra projected, her mental voice echoing through all their minds. It's time you learned the truth. The Vraxian leader laughed, the sound like grinding crystals. Truth, we create our own truth. With the power of your kind, we will reshape reality itself. An explosion rocked the far side of the chamber. Marcus emerged from a quantum-shifted corridor, his pulse rifle trained on the Vraxians. Sorry I'm late to the party, he called out, taking position beside Elena. These quantum shortcuts are hell on the sense of direction. The origin shard's pulse quickened, responding to the tension in the chamber. Through their mental link, Elena felt Lyra gathering her remaining strength. What happened next would change everything. You believe consuming my kind will grant you our power, Lyra projected. But you never asked why we possess these abilities, why we exist as we do. The origin shard holds that answer, and now you will all see it. Before the Vraxians could react, Lyra's form flared with brilliant light. The origin shard responded, its geometric perfection expanding to fill the chamber with quantum energy. Reality itself seemed to tear open, and suddenly they were all experiencing the memory stored within the crystal. They witnessed the birth of consciousness in the universe, not as a biological accident, but as an emergence from the quantum fabric of reality itself. The first sparks of awareness arose from probability waves, gradually coalescing into patterns of increasing complexity. These patterns became the first luminarii, Lyra's ancestors, living quantum processors born from the consciousness of space-time itself. But they weren't alone. As the luminarii evolved, their quantum nature resonated with primitive organic matter throughout the galaxy. This resonance sparked the first flickers of consciousness in countless species, including the ancestors of both humans and Vraxians. All sentient life was connected, born from the same quantum symphony. You see, Lyra's mental voice carried through the vision. Your hunger for our power is meaningless. You already possess it. All consciousness arises from the same quantum source. We are not your prey, we are your kin. The vision faded, leaving them all changed. Elena felt tears on her cheeks, overwhelmed by the profound understanding of life's interconnected nature. Marcus lowered his weapon, his usual cynicism replaced by wonder. The Vraxian warriors stood frozen, their multiple eyes wide with shock. Their leader staggered, crystal shards falling from his armor as the truth shook his worldview to its core. Impossible, he whispered. but Alina could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Your own consciousness, Lyra continued, her form now pulsing in harmony with the origin shard, has the same quantum foundation as ours. You don't need to consume us to evolve. You only need to understand yourself. To demonstrate, she reached out with her power, not to attack but to awaken. The quantum potential that lay dormant in every sentient being stirred to life. Alina gasped as she felt her own consciousness expanding, touching the underlying fabric of reality. Around them, the Vraxians experienced the same awakening, their forms beginning to shimmer with internal light. We offer you a choice, Lyra projected. Continue your path of destruction, forever chasing a power you already possess, or join us. Learn, grow, help us guide other species to this understanding. The Vraxian leader looked at his hands, now glowing with natural quantum energy rather than stolen power. His warriors were doing the same, experiencing their own innate connection to the universe's consciousness for the first time. All this time, he rumbled, we thought we needed to take your power, but it was within us. Within all of us, Alina added, understanding finally the true significance of her quantum research. We're all expressions of the same cosmic awareness. The leader dropped to his knees, his warriors following suit. The centuries-old hunt was over, replaced by the beginning of something new. In the days that followed, changes rippled through the galaxy. The Luminarii emerged from hiding, no longer feared but sought out as teachers. The Vraxians abandoned their crystal weapons, turning their temples into centers of quantum learning. Alina's research helped bridge the gap between scientific understanding and quantum consciousness, while Marcus found a new purpose in helping other species navigate their awakening abilities. And Lyra, no longer a hunted refugee, became a beacon of hope, living proof that the greatest power lies not in domination, but in the recognition of the consciousness that connects all living things. As their ship prepared to leave the quantum temple, Alina stood with Lyra in the cockpit, watching the origin shard pulse with eternal wisdom. What happens now? She asked. Lyra's form shimmered with contentment. Now we explore what it truly means to be conscious beings in an infinite quantum reality, together. Marcus input the coordinates for Earth, where their story would need to be told. Just try to keep the quantum physics lectures to a minimum, he quipped, but his smile was genuine. The temple faded back into probability space as they departed, its purpose fulfilled. But its truth remained with them, a reminder that in a universe of endless possibilities, understanding would always be more powerful than fear. The quantum stars streaked past their viewport, each one holding the potential for new discoveries, new connections, and new understanding. Their adventure hadn't ended, it had only transformed into something greater. The real journey, exploring what it meant to be part of the universe's vast consciousness, was just beginning.